Hey everybody, it's Andy from EX2 Adventures. We are super glad you're joining us this weekend for the Rocky Gap 25K, 50K, and relay up at the amazing Rocky Gap State Park in Flintstone, Maryland. In this video, I'm going to go over the resources that are on the race website. I'm going to go over where you check in, base camp, all that good stuff. I'll go over each one of the loops, and hopefully this serves as a great resource for you as you get ready for this weekend's race. So first, there's a ton of information on the EX2 race website, including the schedule and the email that I sent out to everybody who's registered earlier this week. You can always find any emails that I sent out linked from the EX2 race website. There's descriptions of the course, including loops A, loop B, and loop C, aid stations. There's maps, there's little previews with some pictures of each loop, A, B, and C. There's a handy little cheat sheet of where the aid stations are, what mile markers, and what things are going to be there, like water, Gatorade, full-on food, what have you. As well as like a nice overview map to show you kind of like where each loop is in the park. And there's one of those for each one, the 25K and the 50K. There's specific information about like relay formats, like what runners does each thing, the schedule, directions, some rules, all sorts of good stuff. So let's first talk about the schedule. So we always do bib pickup generally the morning of at our races. So check-in and big bib pickup is going to be at 7 a.m., starting at 7 a.m. in the Mountain View Pavilion inside Rocky Gap State Park in the day use area. Where that is exactly, so you're going to get off Route 68 here if you're coming east or west. You're going to head in towards the park. If you take a left here, you're going to go to the casino. You don't want to do that. You want to head straight into the day use area. There's going to be race parking signs and EX2 flags. It's going to be obvious where you go. You go through the guard shack. You don't have to pay. That's included in your race entry. And then we are going to stage out of the Mountain View Pavilion, which is right over here on the left side of the parking area as you're looking towards the water. Just to orient you, this is the big lake, big mountain over here. So you're going to be driving like right toward this when you come in the morning. Also important to orient you, this is the main sort of pavilion or the main structure in the day use area. The bathrooms are on the right side, right over here. And there are both bathrooms and showers if you want to take a shower after the event. So again, bathrooms over here, check-in, base camp, everything's going to be over here, and there's plenty of parking. All right. 50K is going to start at 8:30 in the morning. 25K is going to start at 9 a.m. Both soloists and relay, the first relay team member, like in the 50K, you'll start at 8:30. If you're doing the 25K solo and the first relay team member, you guys will start all at 9 o'clock in the morning. About 10 minutes before each one of those race starts, I'll have a pre-race briefing where I'll just go over some reminders, some important things about the courses, just the main stuff to remind you about, and then we'll start at 8:30 again for the 50K and 9 a.m. for the 25K. All right, let's see. All right, so hopefully everybody knows by now that the course is basically 3 loops, loop A, loop B, and loop C. If you're doing the 25K, you do each loop once. And so let me just find this here. Here we go. So this is 25K. So you do each loop once in order. So you go loop A, loop B, and then loop C. The loops all start and end at base camp, which is going to be right in front of the Mountain View Pavilion. Okay, so they all the loops start and finish in the base camp in front of Mountain View Pavilion. That's where our timing area is. So make sure you go over that as you leave and you come back every time. All right. So A, B, and C. If you're doing the 50K course, let me find that, you're again doing loop A, B, and C, but you're doing them twice. So you go A, B, C, A, B, C. For the relay teams, if you have 2 members, 3 members, I don't necessarily care which teammate does which loop, but the loops have to be done in order. So if you are doing the 25K and you have 2 runners, this is just an example, runner 1 might do loop A, runner 2 loop B, runner 1 loop C, and so on and so on. And then one below that is an example of a 3-person 50K relay team. Again, I don't care which teammate does each loop as long as the loops are done in order. 25K, it's A, B, and C. 50K, it's A, B, C, A, B, C. Cool. All right. Let's go over the courses themselves. All right, so we're going to start with the A loop. So again, All the loops are going to start at the EX2 arch, right in the base camp area in front of the Mountain View Pavilion. All the loops also start the same way, going out in front of the casino. Right? So just know every time you're starting a loop, you're going out in front of the casino and then quickly getting on some single track after that. All right, so loop A, goes out in front of the casino. We do have some course marshals there, but always use caution. Take out your headphones anytime you're going through here. There's golf carts. This is the golf course right here. There's people maybe walking around, pulling in. So just make sure you have your head up as you're going past the casino. And then you're going to quickly get on the Lakeside Loop Trail, which is blazed orange. You're going to follow that all the way around to about mile 1, and this is your first split on the course. There's only 2 places in the entire course where you're going to see split signs, and those signs are going to show you, based on which loop you're doing, which direction you go. So at this point, you're going to see a sign that says loop A and C, go to the right. Loop B, continue straight, and I'll talk about it in the next course. But again, you're doing loop A, so you're going to go to the right. Pass by your first aid station on the dam. Make sure you look to your right here, look across the lake. It's absolutely beautiful. Follow Lakeside Loop for just a little bit, and then you're going to take a left on something called the Cutoff Trail, up this gnarly, rocky, steep thing until you get to Rocky Trail. Rocky Trail is going to traverse basically across, sort of like partway up the ridge, loop all the way around to Settlers to the top of the Hickory Campground Loop. This is paved. Follow the loop all the way around, and then eventually it's going to dump you back on the Lakeside Loop Trail. Through the second aid station on the beach, beautiful. Follow along, go across this awesome new bridge that the park put in a couple years ago. Look to your right here because you get a really great vantage point down the lake again. And then you continue on Lakeside Loop, all the way looping around. Some really, really beautiful just scenery coming back this way in particular. And then you finish under the EX2 arch. That's the end of your loop. Course marking. So besides the split points that are going to have, again, directional signs with the big letter, where you're going, all the course marking is the same. We basically hang pink streamers from trees, letting you know you're going the right direction, and red arrows pointing you in the direction you want to go. So the only time there's a difference in the loop is those 2 spots, and I'm going to cover them again as we go through loop B and loop C. All right, so that was loop A. Loop B, again, starts in front in the day use area at base camp, goes in front of the casino, ends up on a Lakeside Loop all the way into about mile 1. This is the first split. So again, loop A and C are going right here. Loop B continues straight across this dam road here, heads up this steep little short section of trail to the Canyon Overlook Trail. Goes past the Canyon Overlook, so if you got an extra 10 seconds, go out in the overlook and look in the gorge. It's beautiful. And then follow the Canyon Overlook all the way around to the old Hancock Road, which is basically a dirt road. You're on this for like 3/10 of a mile, 4/10 of a mile, and then you're going to take a left on a trail here. This is called Bear Ridge. Go down a ways up, and then you have this big climb all the way up until you get back on the park road here. You take a right on the park road, and then follow the park road all the way back to the day use area in base camp. Again, be extra careful when you're going in front of the casino, either going out and going back in this loop in particular. You go through the EX2 arch, so we get your split point for your timing. And then if you're doing a soloist, you just continue on, go through our base camp area, and then you go into loop C. So loop C is just really straightforward. It's just all the way around the lake, following the Lakeside Loop Trail, all the way around. Again, you're going to go in front of the casino, follow Lakeside Loop to this first split point here. Again, you're doing loop C, so you follow the signs to say loop C to the right. And you're going to go all the way past that aid station, and then here, one thing I forgot to mention, I think, in loop A, this is the second split right here. So in loop A, you're going up this shortcut trail. That's the only time you're doing it. On loop C, you just continue straight following the Lakeside Loop Trail. There's lots of big yellow signs in those 2 split areas, so it's very, very challenging to miss, even when you're tired. So follow Lakeside Loop around here. Beautiful, beautiful scenes. One of my favorite views is kind of like right in this section here. It's absolutely gorgeous. And you're going to follow along through the beach aid station again, continue on Lakeside Loop all the way back around to the end. So this is, if you're doing the 25K, loop A, loop B, loop C, you're done. If you're doing the 50K, you go around and do each of the 3 loops again, in order, again, A, B, and C. All right? That is an overview of all 3 loops. They're all beautiful, they're all different. There's some definitely overlap in this first section, and then some overlap in A and C doing the last part of the course. But that's by design. It is absolutely beautiful around the lake. You're just gonna love it. Let's see, what else can I tell you? Okay, aid stations and base camp. So base camp is where like all the good food is. So there's going to be hot food, cold food, water, Gatorade, Coke, coffee, stuff with some substance, salty stuff, sweet stuff. That's where you're going to go through at the end of each lap or the beginning of each lap, depending on how you think about it. On the race course, all the aid stations, and there's three. One of them you're only going to see in the B loop. The other two you're going to see on A and C. The one on the beach is going to have some snacks, and then the one over on Hancock Road is going to have some snacks too. We're not just going to have snacks on the dam. It's only a mile away from the base camp, and so there'll be water and Gatorade everywhere, and lots of food at base camp, and then snacks on the beach here, and then snacks Hancock Road on the B loop. Let's see, what else can I tell you? Cutoffs. So I got a couple questions about cutoffs. 25K, we don't have a cutoff at all. You could spend 10 hours out there if you want to. For the 50K, our cutoff is really generous, and we haven't had anybody who's had trouble meeting it. We want everybody to finish, and so we want everybody to be done with the 50K by dark. Okay, and so dark this time of year is around 6:30-ish or so. The way we enforce that cutoff is basically we want everyone to be on their last loop. So this will be the last time around the lake in Loop C by about 4:30 in the afternoon. That gives you a full 2 hours to get around. In order to meet that cutoff, you basically have to maintain about a 17.5-minute mile pace up to that point. So again, we haven't had much trouble. You could, as long as you just keep moving, don't spend too much time like at the aid stations at base camp, and you can basically keep like a walking pace if you're not stopping too much and meet that cutoff. We want everyone to finish, right? Mile markers, one thing I didn't mention. So because the loops have some overlap, it'd be really confusing if we had like all the mile markers out there. And so the way we handle the mile markers is we have basically mile markers to say 2 miles to go, 1 mile to go, half mile to go on all the loops. Right, so you'll see as you're like 2 miles away from the end of your loop, a 2-mile sign, and then 1 mile away from the end of that loop, 1 mile, and then a half mile, you'll see a half-mile sign. And that just helps you realize like, okay, how much do I have to go till I get my cheese quesadilla or whatever you're jonesing for at that point. I think that's all I got for you. We are stoked to see you this weekend at Rocky Gap. We love this park so much, and we cannot wait for you to experience it. If this is your first time, you're going to absolutely love it. If this is your 10th time coming back, I hope you just have a wonderful time, and we can't wait to see you and welcome you to the Rocky Gap 25K, 50K, and relay. We'll see you this weekend.